Can a thief give good title? Let us consider how people respond to laws allocating the responsibility to verify ownership. Imagine that you have made a shrewd deal for the purchase of a television from a person whom you met in the parking lot outside a local bar. The seller told you a tale about his urgent need to raise cash by selling his TV and handed it over from the trunk of his car. One evening, while you were enjoying your new television, the police arrive at your apartment with the person from whom the TV was stolen. Should the law allow you to keep the TV or require you to return it? This example poses the general question: if a good is stolen from owner A by thief B and B disappears with the money after selling the good to innocent buyer C, does the good belong to A or C? This figure depicts the facts. A, the owner, has the good go to B, the thief, and then the good goes to buyer C and money to the thief, buyer B. Money to the thief B, the good to the buyer C. This question is answered differently in different jurisdictions. According to the rule in America, transferors can usually convey only those property rights that they legitimately have. Thus, a person without title cannot convey title to a purchaser. Superscript 39 reads, "This is true as a generalization, but there are important exceptions. For example, if a thief steals money and uses it to buy goods from a merchant, the original owner of the money cannot recover the money from the merchant. A thief can convey good title to money. Moreover, the Uniform Commercial Code allows regular dealers in goods sometimes to give better title than they got. Thus, if a television store happens to have taken possession of and sold a stolen television, the buyer is entitled to presume that the dealer had good title to the television. Any liability to the true owner of the television lies with the dealer. Can you suggest an economic reason why this is a sensible rule?" Back to the text. In this example, the thief did not have good title to the television, so he could not give you good title to it. Instead, title rests with the person from whom the TV was stolen. According to the American rule, you must return the television set to its owner. You are entitled to recover your money from the thief. Technically, the thief breached his warranty of title. If the thief is caught and has money, a different rule prevails in much of Europe, where the buyer acquires title by purchasing the good in good faith. Superscript 40, which reads, "Our simplification of the European rule omits nuances in civil law. Thus, Rule 935 of the German Code, Statute 935 of the German Code of Civil Law distinguishes an owner who lost possession of a movable good voluntarily as opposed to involuntarily. An owner who lost possession involuntarily has a relatively strong claim against a good faith purchaser of it. Back to the text. The good faith requirement means that the buyer must genuinely believe that the seller owns the good. The good faith requirement prevents a fence of stolen goods from hiding behind the law. The law may also require the buyer to make reasonable efforts to verify ownership, such as checking that the serial number was not filed off the television. Applied to this example, the European law presumably permits you to keep the television. The original owner may recover your money from the thief if possible. In general, law must allocate to the risk that the stolen goods will be brought in good faith. The American rule places the entire risk on the buyer, whereas the European rule places that risk on the original owner. The American rule gives buyers an extra incentive to verify that the seller is truly the owner. The European rule gives owners an extra incentive to protect their property against theft. One of these rules is more efficient in the sense of imposing a lower burden on commerce and promoting the voluntary exchange of property. Which rule is it? Here is a method for finding out. Let big C sub naught indicate the lowest cost to the original owner of protecting against theft by, say, engraving his or her social security number on the object. Let big C sub big B indicate the lowest cost to the purchaser of verifying that the seller is the owner by, say, confirming this fact with the party from whom the seller originally obtained the good. For the sake of efficient incentives, liability should fall on the party who can verify ownership at least cost. Thus, the efficiency of the competing rules may be determined as follows. Number one, if it is generally true that big C sub naught or sub big O, I can't tell, I think that's sub big O, is less than big C sub big B, restarting number one. If it is generally true that big C sub O is less than big C sub B, then it is more efficient for the good faith buyer to acquire good title against the original owner. 2. If it is generally true that big C sub O is greater than big C sub B, then it is more efficient for the original owner to retain title against the good faith buyer. Unfortunately, the absence of empirical evidence about the values of big C sub O and big C sub B prevents us from answering decisively whether one rule is better than the other. Indeed, the lack of evidence also prevents different countries from identifying the more efficient rule and adopting it. However, the example of Spain suggests what is probably the best approach. In Spain, the American rule typically applies when the thief steals the good from a household and sells it to a merchant. In other words, a Spanish merchant cannot get good title from a thief. Merchants who buy from a thief encourage thievery by making it more profitable. The Spanish practice of applying the American rule to merchants who buy from thieves discourages merchants from fencing stolen goods, thus reducing the probability of theft. In Spain, however, the European rule that the buyer can acquire good title from a thief typically applies when the thief steals the good from a merchant and sells it to another merchant or household. Thus, the Spanish practice increases the ease with which goods circulate among merchants in commerce and passes to the final consumer. Superscript 41, which reads, Ciudad Paz eres seguridad jurídica y seguridad del tráfico, verdad de derecho mercantil 7 a 40, 1 a 985. Back to the text. End of section.